to tell their innermost secrets, and then you just dump them on the street somewhere in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing was happening a lot until 1975.
Church Commission.
The Church Committee and the Pike Committee in the House. And they were appalled by that. And the Church Committee and the Pike Committee morphed into the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Great. And they had real, true, legit oversight until about 1982. You mentioned MKUltra a moment ago. MKUltra was a real thing. Mm-hmm. Most of the documents were destroyed by Director Helms in violation of the law.
Right.
But even with all the documents destroyed, we still have a pretty darn good idea of what MKUltra was. And pretty much every facet of it was illegal.
Yeah.
It was extensive experimentation on American citizens without their knowledge and without their consent, to the point where under something called MK Chickwit, which was a subset of MKUltra, the CIA actually weaponized a virus that they blew into the San Francisco fog just to see if people would get sick. And this was in the late 1950s. And 11 people came down with this rare urinary tract infection that doctors had never seen before. And so that was a success. That made them think, oh yeah, we can weaponize this. And, maybe we blow this in Shanghai Harbor or in Moscow in the summertime. Another thing that they did, also part of MKUltra, is they recruited prostitutes in San Francisco.
Yes.
To go out and find Johns and bring them back to what was really a CIA safe house. It was made to look like a cat house. A CIA safe house, drug them, and then try to get them to tell their innermost secrets. So they dosed them with LSD and with a couple of there were like 6 different medications.
This was like Sidney Gottlieb's experiment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It came from Sidney Gottlieb's experiment. And, it was supposed to be some sort of truth serum, right? But with LSD as a base. Does it work? Well, who cares if it works? These guys never consented to be drugged by you guys to tell their innermost secrets. And then you just dump them on the street somewhere in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing was happening a lot until 1975.
Church Commission.
The Church Committee and the Pike Committee in the House. And they were appalled by that. And the Church Committee and the Pike Committee morphed into the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Great. And they had real, true, legit oversight until about 1982. Bill Casey was Ronald Reagan's CIA director. Casey,
great guy.
Oh,
Phenomenal
lovely, lovely man. Yeah.
He was a real looker, too.
And a looker.
He must have done well with the ladies.
See, he was years ahead with the giant lips thing that he had going on. So he's a former OSS officer, Office of Strategic Services, which was the CIA's predecessor organization, and just a true believer. And he did his darndest to cut Congress out of everything. And then that ended up giving us, Iran-Contra and all kinds of different terrible scandals. He ended up dying he had a stroke he had an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm. So died just before the end of his term. But by then, the oversight committees really didn't have any idea what the CIA was doing. And so they went so far as to have a vote in 1986. It was a no confidence vote in Casey as the DCI. And the way they ended up getting it passed in a negotiation with the Republicans was, it sounds so stupid now in retrospect, but they voted to say that William Casey is not unqualified to continue as director.
Meaning, okay, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they're basically just trying to put a little in there, but politic it to say, but he still can.
Yeah. We're not asking that he resign.
Yeah.
But we're saying that he's
not doing great.
Yeah, he's not doing great. That's right. But ever since then, there's not been any real oversight. When the Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee did the Senate torture report, a little bit more than a decade ago, that report, as it was published, was Democratic staff only. there were no Republicans involved, no Republican staff, and no Republican members. It was a Democratic product. Excuse me. And then the Republicans came out with a counter to it that they published.
And what was that?
Oh, we love torture. And it wasn't torture. It
literally said that?
Yeah. It worked. It was moral. It was right. It's like, okay. If that's what you're going with, don't let me stop you.
Yeah. So the other problem, though, when you look at the history of, you bring up the church committee. That guy, Frank Church, who it's named after.
Yep.
I believe the committee commenced in 74 or 75.
Correct.
Something like that.
Yep.
So he won his Senate election in 74.
He won re-election in 74 because Richard Nixon had just resigned, and it was the worst, most devastating kill job in the 20th century.
That's right.
Yeah.
Point being, though, his next election was 6 years later.
And he got crushed.
Yeah. And it's because there's some weird money that went into the race against him.
You're exactly right.
We know where that's coming from.
You are exactly right. Frank Church was one of those giants of the 20th century. I can honestly tell you, such senators don't exist anymore. Maybe there will be some someday, but giants who had a place in American history. We had a half a dozen of them back then from both parties, but anymore they're just
they're bought.
Bunch of bozos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But this guy tries to make that committee so that there can be oversight or whatever. Right. And then the very people that they're investigating, I mean, it harkens back to the old New York Times headline where it's like, the CIA investigated itself on whether or not it sold crack in the hoods and it found no wrongdoing.
Exactly.
That's what they're doing here when the people who are supposed to be pushing for the oversight, they can then use surreptitious ways to get them out of office. And then poof, you never really hear about it again. Because to your point, there have been arguments over the torture time or whatever, but there hasn't been some sort of hands-on major oversight commission since then.
Yeah. I was a little kid when that was happening, and I remember my dad voting for Frank Church for president in the 1976 primaries. My mom had voted for Birch Bayh from Indiana. I remember that. I don't know why she did, but my dad voted for Church, and my mom said, "Really, Church?" And I remember my dad saying, "That guy earned it. If anybody's earned it, it was him." Mm-hmm.
A young John Kiriakou that went in one ear, out the other, apparently. So he joined up with the dark side.
Right, the dark side.
Well, the context of all this and thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.